In our first story, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin is the Speaker for the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic, but his selection was not without controversy. Of course, we want to know that his election is a historical precedent where a member of the immediate past minority in Parliament becomes the Speaker. This is the first in the country's history. What this means is that in the event of the absence of the President and the Vice President, Mr. Bagbin will act as President. How does that work really? Also, his election means the party which is not in government is leading the affairs on the floor of Parliament. What does that mean for this new parliamentary setup? How about that 137 membership representation from both sides with one independent candidate? Will voting on future bills on the floor take the form of what happened with the speakers? Interesting stuff to find out. First, joining us we will soon have Dr. Rashid Rahman, Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, ASEPA. He'll be joining us shortly. Also, lawyer OPPONG is a legal practitioner. He will be joining this discussion. And Abraham Amaleba represented James Kwachi Kwesen, that's the Asin North Member of Parliament, in court, and he will definitely be joining us. But first of all, let's hear that historic moment, the swearing in of the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin.
Elect about 2.5 hours ago, an unfortunate incident happened in the process leading to the declaration
a live feed from the Chamber of Parliament.
Of the election.
The Clerk to Parliament is addressing the Chamber now.
Out of which leadership held some consultations. Accordingly, I have the honor to declare Honorable Alban Kingsford Sumana Bagbin as Speaker-elect.
Take the oath of office. We're going to listen to this now. We're going to go live. I'm going to take it live now and listen in to the swearing in.
Yes. Repeat after me.
I, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin,
do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
Do in the name of the Almighty God swear
that I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Republic of Ghana.
To the Republic of Ghana.
As by law established.
As by law established.
That I will uphold.
That I will uphold.
The sovereignty and integrity of Ghana.
The sovereignty and integrity of Ghana.
And that I will preserve.
And that I will preserve.
Protect.
Protect.
And defend.
And defend.
The Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
The Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
So help me God.
So help me God. I, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin,
do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
Do in the name of the Almighty God swear
that I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Republic of Ghana.
To the Republic of Ghana.
As by law established.
As by law established.
That I will uphold.
That I will uphold.
The integrity of the Republic of Ghana.
The integrity of the Republic of Ghana.
That I will faithfully.
that I will faithfully
and conscientiously discharge my duties
as
Speaker of Parliament, and that I will uphold, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, and that I will do right to all manner of persons in accordance with the Constitution of Ghana.
And so that is that historic moment with Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin being sworn in as Speaker of Parliament. We have been joined on the line by lawyer OPPONG. He's a private legal practitioner, and he'll be helping us explore some of the incidents that led to this. Lawyer OPPONG, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, the Asin North MP was injuncted by a Cape Coast court from holding himself as Member of Parliament, but we saw him go into the chamber, get sworn in, and proceed to vote for the Speaker of the House. What are the implications of these actions?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning. Well, I take it for granted that what you just stated is confirmed, and also that whatever we say on that basis will also be factual. Now, what it means is that, well, the first question to ask is, before a person is said to have disobeyed orders of the court, you have to ask whether or not the person was aware of the orders of the court. First of all, it may then lead to inquiry as to service of the order on him, or how he may have otherwise, in accordance with law, have received the decision of the court. And when that question is answered in the affirmative, then it will lead us to other questions and answers. But that, for me, is fundamental. But as we understand, service of processes on a Member of Parliament or a person who has to be in Parliament to perform some function or the other of a Member of Parliament, that may have to be served to him through the clerk and some circumstances the Speaker. So if the clerk can confirm that he was served with a court order from the Cape Coast High Court, and then the next question is, did you bring it to the attention of the person concerned? If that is also confirmed or is answered in the affirmative, the legal consequences will follow if the person against whom the order for injunction was issued nonetheless violated the order of the court and disobeyed the court.
Now, to those key issues, Mr. OPPONG, and very important questions. First of all, the Clerk of Parliament admitted on the floor on Thursday morning that he had indeed been served at 4:55 p.m. on Thursday. Also, the deputy leader for the NPP side, Mr. Alexander Peyomarkin, pointed out to Mr. Kwakye Kwesen that he was in court when the ruling was passed or was read by the judge, and so he would be well aware that he is not to hold himself as Member of Parliament. What then does that add to the implications as you spell them out?
Well, I would try to make it as general as possible. The point is that once an order of the court restraining a person has somehow or otherwise, in accordance with law, brought to his notice, he has to comply with it. In law, and the lawyers who know better than I do are aware that an order of the court, however void it may be, has to be obeyed before or up to the time that it will be set aside either on appeal or by the court itself. When notice of the voidness of the order has been brought to the court and is proven, until that is done, an order of the court, however obtained, whether even by the abuse of the court's own jurisdiction, has to be obeyed. And if you don't obey it, at that point in time, you don't have the entitlement to decide not to obey it, probably because you think it is a void order. You have to obey or go to the court in obedience until it is set aside. That is how I want to put it. But of course, a lot or all depends on the person who applies for the injunction order. He goes back to the court and inform the court that your orders, which have been brought to the attention of the person against whom they were issued, have been disobeyed by that person. And therefore, the normal legal consequences ought to follow. The court cannot, or perhaps none of us who are not parties, cannot just go to the court and inform the court that the orders have been disobeyed and therefore we cite the person for contempt or otherwise punish him for his disobedience.
So what are those legal consequences? Let's assume that Gary Nimako, who represents the petitioners in Mr. Kweson's case, would go to court and make those demands. What are those legal consequences which come upon Mr. Kweson?
First of all, I think that's a small matter, if I may be permitted. The case, I understand, was commenced by Mr. Frank Davis as the lawyer for the applicant.
Yes.
And Gary supported him and held his brief on the day the decision was given. I think the credit must also be given to Mr. Frank Davis. That's by the way.
Yeah.
But one of them, but the main legal consequence is that the person may be cited for contempt before a court of competent jurisdiction. If there are other high courts in the area, then by practice, the judge who issued that order may not be the one that will hear the contempt application. And with the contempt application, the worst form may be for the person to be in prison for disobeying the orders of the court, to be fined, or to be cautioned, or if it's not proven, then acquitted. These are the general ones that I can remember now.
So we should expect that if things do not go the way of the Asin North MP, he could be going to jail.
If a contempt application is filed in the High Court and is brought to his notice, and he's not able to get the court to set aside that application, and the court rather agrees with the applicant for the contempt, and it is granted, a conviction may follow, and then once there's a conviction, other consequences, as I said, may be a caution, may be fine, or may be some custodial sentence.
Now, will this have any bearing on the actions he took whilst he was injuncted upon? I'm talking about casting his ballot in the election of Speaker of Parliament. Can Mr. Frank Davis, for instance, argue that his vote in that election is nullified?
Well, the order that I have seen, which I believe he has had the opportunity to cite, was very clear. One, not to hold himself out as an MP and not to present himself for purposes of being sworn in. And so if all this happens, then without prejudice, he will have to put up a defense that will be more satisfactory than the case of the applicant. Mind you, it is a criminal or quasi-criminal proceeding, and the standard is very high indeed, proof beyond reasonable doubt. So the heavier burden is on the applicant if he decides to file a contempt application to prove that, one, the order was issued, the order was served on him or was otherwise brought to his attention or notice in accordance with law, that the order was disobeyed by him. He did the very thing that the court restrained him from doing, and that because of that, and all that was done intentionally to disobey the orders of the court and to bring the administration of justice into disrepute. If all these are proven, then it will depend on what the judge thinks, whether the judge is satisfied that the case for contempt has been made. Then the consequences may follow. Sometimes he may apologize, ask the court to forgive you for some reason, or ask for estimating circumstances that led you into maybe, for example, disobeying the orders of the court. These can be put together by the respondent's lawyers, and if the court is satisfied, the court may even avoid convicting the person or if the person is convicted, may apply the good sense, the law, the conscience of the court, and also some mitigating factors can lead to the judge deciding not to apply any of the punishments I've already indicated.
Right. You mentioned the implications on Mr. Kwesen as a person, but I was also curious about the implication on the votes that he cast. Can that vote be struck out? Can we say it's rendered ineffective?
For the record, I have not specifically, unless I mistook I made a mistake, but I have not specifically made mention of any specific consequences that will apply to him personally. That's why I was saying that I would prefer to speak generally. But speaking generally, I'm saying that if an application has to be filed, then what we have already indicated as the burden on the applicant, the burden on the that time, if I may say, contempt will have to be discharged after that of the applicant is discharged. But all other persons may have to, it will also depend on whether the applicant decides to join other persons. He thinks may have aided the commission of the contempt or may have otherwise facilitated. And I think that in circumstances like this, the lawyer has to be careful in choosing who sends to court.
Right. Lawyer OPPONG, thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Rashid Draman is Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, ACEPA. He joins us with some more insights. Doc, suffice it to say that it's a very historic day when it comes to parliamentary work in Ghana. How is the current nature of the House going to change the workings of Parliament as an institution?
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, Doctor.
Yes. I think you are right. It's a very historic day. I mean, that was yesterday, actually, with the election of Honorable Bagbin as Speaker, and for the first time, Parliament that is split right in the middle, and then Speaker from a different party controlling Parliament. So very, very historic. It would have been more historic and a huge addition to our democracy if we didn't have those nasty incidents that are going to be, remembered for many, many years to come in the negative way. That is the presence of the military in the House, which was almost tantamount to overthrow of our constitution and an assault on the sovereignty of Parliament. And then, of course, the drama with the snatching of the ballots, which, we've been hearing over the years that these things happen during voting, but, it never came home so clearly like we did see yesterday with the honorable member from Tema West.
Now, indeed, those are very, very unfortunate incidents that you describe, and it interests me that you describe the entry of security personnel into the chamber as a near overthrow of our constitutional rule.
Yes, indeed. The military has no business in our democracy. The military has no business in the, enforcement of, if you like, law and order. I'm not a security person, but if you speak to the security people, in any event at the worst of it, I think this is a role for the police. We live in a country where, we've witnessed many, many times instances when the military has overthrown Parliament, and taken over the reins of this country. And if you remember, you know, in all the military coup d'etats that we have had in this country, you know, the executive remains, the judiciary remains. It's parliament that is usually, if you like, abolished. So when you see the military walking into parliament, and you remember this history, the first thing that you ask yourself, I mean, are we seeing another overthrow of our constitution? And that was what was going through the minds of some of us. We have come a long way as a country that we don't need these kinds of things. And their presence in the House, I am sure, angered members of parliament the more, I believe, from both sides. And perhaps that even contributed to the outcome that we saw yesterday.
Right. Very unfortunate. Thanks for that clarification. But I also wanted to know about how the fact that Alban Bagbin is a member of the opposition party and his speaker, how is that going to change the workings of parliaments going forward?
Well, the workings of parliament was going to be already difficult in terms of the unprecedented kind of splits that we have right now. Then we now have this adding to the mix. Honorable Bagbin would have to deal with an executive that is not similar, I mean, from the same stock. Honorable, our president would have to deal with a speaker that is not from his party, and so on and so forth. And we had the president yesterday. There is no other way of looking at this apart from the two sides sitting down and talking and finding a workable way of, doing business for our dear country. I mean, there's no other way of looking at it. Any attempt to dig in, any attempt to, to try to, rely on people's egos and say, we are not going to reach out, the other side can do whatever they like, is going to spell doom for this country. And I think that, all of us are going to be angry, and, the parties would have to pay for the consequences. The voter is very patient. We would have our day. So I believe for their own self-preservation, the two sides would have to find a way. And our president said yesterday, he and Right Honorable Bagbin have a very heavy responsibility. And I hope that that doesn't remain at the level of just words. But, that should be backed by some concrete dialogue and action so that, our country can advance. At the end of the day, I think it is very beautiful. Our democracy is maturing, and it shows some level of resilience, if you like, in terms of our democratic practice. And if we're able to survive this, I think that would really cement our reputation as one of the leading kind of countries in the sub-region and beyond in terms of democratic practice. But we don't want to see...
But will there not be more tension? Will there not be more tension in the House? Considering yes, what the selection of the speaker was like.
Yes, there would be, my brother, there will be a lot of tension. But as we saw yesterday, the proceedings in Parliament ended very well. You saw the majority, the Honorable Chairman proposing the second Deputy Speaker, and Honorable Haruna seconding that. A few hours before then, that was not the case. So it showed you that all of a sudden, I think everybody is beginning to realize that, look, going forward, we don't have any option. We have to find a way to work together. And, in the lead up to the election of the Right Honorable Speaker, one of the things that I said on your platform, as well as other platforms, was the fact that we needed in the next Speaker of Parliament someone who has the capacity and the capabilities to persuade not only his side but the other side, and then someone who has a temperament to manage crisis. And I think in Right Honorable Bagbin, we have the man for the moment, because he has been there right from the beginning. he will be guided by history. He will be guided by all the happenings in the previous parliament. Previous parliament. What has led to nasty incidents that we have seen over the last 28 years, and how can those be avoided? And I think in Right Honorable Bagbin, we have the person who was there right from day one, and I think history would guide him.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rashid Draman, for joining us this morning on News Desk. You're live on the Joy News channel. Now, Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Al-Hassan Suhini, has been speaking. We'll tell you about that later. But let me tell you this. My party, the NPP, of course, enjoys a slim majority, courtesy the independent candidate from Fomena. By this arithmetic, the NPP was supposed to occupy the right side of the speaker in the chamber. I'm telling you the words of Carlos Ahinkra, the Tema West Member of Parliament, who has released a statement following his snatching of a ballot paper, of a bunch of ballot papers. You see that in the shots now, very famous images now. These very videos you've seen have been trending on social media. We will be bringing you that apology that Carlos Ahinkra has put out for the statement, for the action you're seeing. We'll take a few messages. We'll be back with more here on News Desk. Stay with us.